So, this is for my American audience, you who are Americans or living in the United States. I'm here to tell you the truth about your situation at this time. You are about to experience a poverty in the United States that is unprecedented. Nobody alive today in the United States will have experienced the poverty that you are about to experience right now in the next 6 to 30 months. Some of you are already experiencing this poverty that is unprecedented in scope. And I would venture to argue that, 30, 40 years from now, when historians look back on this period, they will talk about the 2020s as the Second Great Depression. For a lot of people, the Depression started in mid-March of 2020. That's when the lockdowns first started. But certainly now, with the gasoline prices skyrocketing, you're going to see a lot more poverty in the United States. And like I said, most of you in the United States probably already know that this is baked in the cake. They already see it. You see it in the collapsing infrastructure. You see it in all the closed shops up and down those bright city streets, Fifth Avenue in New York, and Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills and all the rest of it. And they're all closed up, where the expensive shops used to be. And the infrastructure, the airports, they're falling apart. The bus stations, let's not even talk about them. But, the potholes and the whole thing just seems like it's like falling apart. And you sense it, you know it. And you see the gasoline prices and they hit you in your wallet when you fill up your gas tank. And for those of you who aren't Americans, well, the United States has organized its entire existence around the automobile. Most people living in suburbs cannot get food without a car because the supermarket is 3, 4, 5 miles away sometimes. Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. It's not a walkable distance. I lived in some upscale neighborhoods in the United States, and to get to the nearest supermarket was at least a mile away, one way. So you need a car. And of course, gasoline is going through the roof. And so it's hitting your pocketbook. And it's also, of course, going to hit the truckers. And so if it hits the truckers, it's going to hit the prices of the goods and services that you buy. And they're going to start to go up, or they're already going up. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it in the past year. And, the Biden administration is lying to you and saying that, oh, it's no big deal, And now they're saying, oh, it's Putin's fault. Putin because of this invasion of Ukraine, right? But no, it's not Putin's fault. It's not even Biden's fault. It's not even Trump's fault. And not even Obama's fault, or even George W. Bush's fault. This has been baked into the cake for going on 25, 30 years. This really started with the Clinton administration, when they started hollowing out the manufacturing base of the United States, exporting its manufacturing facilities to countries in Asia and Central America and South America and other places around the globe. Globalization. They emptied out the manufacturing base of the United States, and that was sin number one. And sin number two was right after 9/11, the so-called global war on terror. What happened basically was that the United States government took out the national credit card and started zipping it through the machine over and over and over again to pay for the wars, to pay for a lifestyle that the American people could not really afford. But with a national credit card, i.e. national debt, well, they could afford it because, as Dick Cheney famously said, deficits don't matter, which is true. Deficits don't matter in the moment that you take on the deficit, but eventually you do have to pay it. You see? I mean, we all know that feeling of having that credit card with the, $1,000 limit, $5,000 limit, $10,000 limit, or $100,000 limit sometimes. And we go there and we zip it through and we buy that really expensive thing. And we know that later we're going to have to pay for it, plus the interest. We're going to have to pay for it. But right now we got it. And so we're not thinking about tomorrow. We don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow is tomorrow, and today is today. And today we have this cool thing and we play with it. We use it. We show it off to our friends. It's great until tomorrow arrives. And you see, tomorrow has arrived. In the United States, the national debt is so high that if it were any other nation on the face of the planet, people would say that that nation is broke. You add on federal debt, state levels of debt, municipal debt, and we're talking 200% of gross domestic product. These levels of debt are unsustainable, and the only reason that they have been sustained so far is because the United States has the reserve currency, the currency that the rest of the world needs to trade, but because of the sanctions that the Biden administration has so self-righteously imposed on Russia and threatened to India and China even, those other countries are moving away from the dollar. Even Saudi Arabia is moving away from the dollar. India is already exploring options to trade rupees for rubles, cutting out the dollar. Without the dollar as the reserve currency, the United States is just another bankrupt country, no different from like Greece in 2012 or some Latin American banana republic. The only difference, of course, is the United States is, number one, bigger, and number two, has nukes and a military. And so this is an exceedingly dangerous time for the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is aware of this. You see, the United States is broke, completely bankrupt. And you Americans who are watching me, it's not that the gasoline is going to go up in price. It's your food is going to go up in price. And you're going to start losing your jobs because companies can't keep up because inflation is too much and they can't raise their prices. And so they're going to start cutting employees, cutting you. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to be unemployed, and the prices of goods and services, essential goods and services, food is going to go up, and you're not going to be able to buy it. And you're going to actually have to make the decision whether you buy heating oil or food, or try to come to some agreement. Well, you're like, okay, we'll turn off the heat at nighttime and then have a little bit of heat during the day so that we can get some food. And it's not just going to be happening to you, it's going to be happening to everybody in the United States. That's what's coming. And some people in the United States have already experienced this. When their businesses were shut down because of the COVID lockdowns, which retrospectively seemed like so much bullshit, because it was, and thinking people could have told you that, but of course, thinking people were silenced, thinking people were censored. But anyway, spilt milk, water under the bridge. The point is now. And now, because of these foolish sanctions on Russia that only hurt the United States and Europe, the United States is on this downward trajectory because people are realizing that it's over. You see, it's like Wile E. Coyote in the Roadrunner cartoons. You see Wile E. Coyote, he runs and runs and runs. He runs so fast off the cliff that he seems to be like floating on air until he suddenly realizes, there's nothing below. And that's what's happening to the United States. That's what's happening to the rest of the world insofar as their perceptions of the United States. And people are saying, well, how come the Iranians shot some missiles? Oh, that's just the start of it. The start of it. Because other countries are realizing that the United States is over and they're going to start making their moves. Because you see, bottom line, the United States acted like the world's policeman. A lot of people hated America's guts for a long time, but they couldn't do anything about it. But now they're starting to realize that America is so weak, so on the brink. Well, not even on the brink. They're the Wile E. Coyote that's gone right off the cliff and it's floating on nothing but air. People sense that the United States is about to crash. And so they're taking advantage of the opportunity. And you're going to see a lot more things going on. North Korea, in China, and also a lot of regional wars, little piddly-ass little shit like stuff in South America, the Middle East, and so forth and so on. Africa is going to be a basket case, but that's not important for this conversation. The important thing is that a lot of people were afraid of the United States, and now they no longer fear the United States because they realize that the United States is broke. And you, Americans, are going to pay for it, and you're going to suffer. Now, I'm telling you this because probably nobody's going to tell you this. Certainly your leadership is not going to tell you this. They're going to lie to you. They're going to lie to you and tell you that everything is hunky-dory and that, we're going to fight Putin and we're just going to have to deal with these little gas price problems for just a little bit, but it'll all be better soon enough. And that's a lie. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, a lot worse. And you will have to make the decision whether you buy heating oil or food. And that choice is not going to be far away. By this time next year, by this time in 6 months, understand what's going on. And this has been baked in the cake for years. It's not a recent thing, and it's a tragedy. And a lot of people in the rest of the world are going to take advantage of this and shit on the United States pretty badly. A lot of people in the rest of the world are going to grab theirs while they can. And a lot of people in the United States are going to demand really crazy things. They're going to demand wars because they're going to say that, it's Putin's fault and we got to go to war. We got to send our military to what? To bring back the good old days? I mean, that's kind of like what's the rationale is going to be. And that's why a lot of people in the rest of the world are so scared of the United States right now. Because you see, you don't pet a burning dog, as they say. And the United States is a burning dog. And people are very, very afraid that the United States, in its desperation, as its economy craters, well, it will lash out. It will lash out and potentially do untold damage to the rest of the world, let alone itself. And you who are Americans, you have to realize that your leaders, the Biden administration, but not just the Biden administration, people on the Republican side too, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, all of these people, all these politicians who don't give a shit about you, they're going to try to channel your fear and anger and the fact that you are realizing how poor you really are and how bankrupt the United States really is. They're going to try to channel that fear and anxiety and rage, try to channel it towards military adventures that will cost the lives of thousands, tens of thousands of innocent people, not to mention the soldiers and all the rest of it. Also, some people in the U.S. government can make some money. Also, that some people in the U.S. government can deflect blame. I mean, look at Joe Biden right now. He's blaming the gas price rises on Putin. But these gas price rises and inflation in general were going on for months before the Ukrainian war. But old Joe Biden is blaming it all on Putin. It's Putin's fault. He did it. He's the one. You should hate him. Go ahead and hate on him. That's what they're trying to do to you. Understand what's going on. Your poverty and misery, the kind of poverty and misery you are about to experience in a way that is unprecedented in American history, it's not the fault of Putin. It's not the fault of the Chinese. It's the fault of the American leaders who did stupid policies. Bill Clinton, by hollowing out the manufacturing base of the United States because it made Wall Street more money. George W. Bush and his stupid war on terror that basically unleashed the American credit card to go into these pointless wars that were so incredibly expensive, but the people didn't realize it because it was just on the national credit card. And so people didn't realize the true cost of what was going on. Now you are realizing the true costs of these policies. And now you have to make sure that your incompetent, corrupt leaders, like the Biden administration and like the Republican Party, do not fool you into thinking that it's the fault of somebody else. It's not the fault of anyone else. It's the fault of American leadership. And here comes the bitterest pill of them all. If the United States is a true democracy, then who is responsible for the leadership that the United States has? Because these leaders that we have, they weren't put there, they're not kings, ruling by divine right. No. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. You allowed yourself to be fooled, and now you are going to pay the price. And the rest of the world is asking you, please don't lash out at us, the rest of the world, because we had nothing to do with this shit show that you are experiencing. You are responsible because you allowed this to happen. And that's a bitter pill, but you're going to have to swallow it.